Hello everybody, I'm Marcelo Bqaueroalvarez and this is Info in Context. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. If you're unfamiliar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, perhaps you have experienced it somehow. So let me give you an example. Have you ever had to train or maybe teach something to a person and they act as though they know everything there is to know about the subject, even though they've never done it before? And of course, whenever they have to show that they know what they're doing, they fail miserably. So that would be an example of a person who has been fallen victim of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And guess what? We can all be victims of that. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that in today's video. The purpose of this video is to understand how the Dunning-Kruger effect can be utilized for propagandistic purposes and how it can be used in order to defeat propaganda. If you stay until the end of the video, we're going to be talking about the real life story that is behind the Dunning-Kruger effect. And you don't want to miss it because it is very fascinating. Meanwhile, when you log into my website, www.infoincontext.com, you're going to be seeing the chart that we are going to be placing here on the screen, and we're going to be talking about that and how it can help us understand the Dunning-Kruger effect. So when you look at the chart, you're going to see a red vertical line that represents experience, and it goes from a marginal level of experience, so a person doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, to a proficient level of experience where they would have some idea about what they're talking about, to a mastery level of experience where they really, really understand that subject. And of course, there's a blue line, and that represents time. And of course, time can go forever depending on the person. You're also going to see an inverted arch, much like a big smile, and it has a whole bunch of different numbers, and they all represent something, and we're going to be talking about those. So for the sake of this example, let's say that we are teaching a person to do a job or some particular skill that is going to be required for them to perform a function, okay? So when you first introduce this function to a person, the first thing that they're going to be thinking is that they are at the mastery level, that they know everything there is to know, and they go, yeah, I got it, but they don't have it. And of course, since now they have to show proficiency, then they'll go down to number 2 when they realize that, okay, I probably didn't understand all that, but they're still kind of like trying to fake it till they make it. And the more they try, the more they continue to fail, and that's when they fall into this number 3 and say like, okay, I'm really out of my element. I really don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm in big trouble, okay? So that's kind of like how it starts going, okay, whenever they actually have to show proficiency in what they thought that they knew. So once they hit that number 4, okay, that is a critical point, okay, because that number 4, that's whenever they hit rock bottom, okay, they cannot start faking anymore that they are out of their element. And one of two things are going to happen. This is key for propaganda because a propagandist wants you to, at that point, just give up and get you so angry and say like, okay, have your ego is starting to battle you and you just go, everybody who thinks that they know the facts or the experts, I know more, but I don't even want to learn anymore. And I'm just going to gravitate it back to my echo chamber where everybody else seems to agree with me, even though that information is erroneous. That is exactly what the propagandists want, because then that means that you're going to be more likely to discard any of the actual evidence or not wanting to seek the truth, because now it actually hurts you so much that you just want to go back to whatever was causing in that echo chamber where everybody else is just lying to themselves. But if a person actually has intellectual honesty, they are going to want to learn what is the truth, what actually happens, even if it hurts them, even if they realize, okay, somebody took me for a ride or I didn't actually knew that, and they have to own to their mistakes. At that point, you can actually start growing. And you're going to be seeing in this chart, that this line, that goes up, it's kind of like a little bit skewed, to the right. And the reason for that is because we all are going to have some level of experience that is going to make us a little bit harder, okay? It's not just going to be cut and dry. Oh, yeah, I messed up. Okay, yeah, good to go. For some people, it's going to be easier than others, of course. But for some people, they're going to have these stages of grief, and it might actually be a little traumatic before they move to the next level. So that's why that line is just slightly skewed, just in case you were wondering. So when you get to this number 5 point, that means that, okay, you're finally learning. You're really accepting that there was so much that you didn't learn. But now you're actually starting to understand, okay, there's a little bit more to that. And you start actually getting more acquainted with the subject, and you start putting those pieces together and start helping you become better, more proficient. If you continue going at it, then you're going to make it to number 6. And at that point, you actually gain more proficiency. You actually understand what you're talking about. Or at least you understand what you didn't understand. And it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to differentiate the reality from the BS. So it's a good thing. And as you move into number 7, you get to the point that finally you really understand what is it that you're supposed to be doing. And now notice that that line is following the same level that you assumed at the beginning of this process, where you thought that you knew everything there was to know about something. But just look at that timeline. How long did it actually take you to actually reach to that level where you thought that you knew everything there was to know about that subject? And when you get to number 8, you get to realize something that only people who truly understand the subject are able to ascertain, which is that there is so much more to learn, no matter what subject. Okay, you pick the subject, like being cuisine or religion or politics or any subject that you can imagine. Okay? There's always so much more to learn. So this is very important for us to understand. Okay, at what point, whenever we hit that critical point, that number 4, either we are still gravitating to our echo chamber, or are we actually trying to learn the facts and become more proficient to be able to understand at least what we know, most importantly, what we don't know, so we can understand what is true and what is not true. When I used to teach the Dunning-Kruger effect to my sailors, I used to perform this exercise to help them understand that we all can become victims of the Dunning-Kruger effect if we're not careful. So this is the exercise, and it works a little bit better if you're not a musician, but if you're a musician, it's still probably going to work out. So let's play along. Let's say that a person wants to learn to play a musical instrument, and they decide that they want to play the piano. And as they start the process, they sit behind a keyboard and they get startled. Whoa, that's a lot of keys. There's these black keys and there's these white keys, and I have to use both hands, and there's also pedals. And I had to do bass and treble at the same time and kind of like work all my fingers, in some way. Okay, too much. You know what? I'm going to try the guitar. And some people say, well, why? See, everybody seems to be able to play the guitar. Just learn a couple of cowboy chords, and then you just strum along and maybe sing, and it sounds pretty easy, So, yeah, let's do the guitar. So, all right. So you start trying to learn the guitar. It's like, whoa, have to tune this thing, like all these strings, they have different notes and all these frets, and the strings kind of hurt my fingers. And, well, what is this intonation stuff about that? Those chords, they're kind of like twisting my fingers. You know what? I'm going to try something easier. I'm going to do the bass guitar. So, yeah, the bass guitar, yeah. I mean, it only has 4 strings, right? So instead of having 6 strings, and the 4 strings, they have the same notes as the 4 strings on the top of the guitar. Phew. Yeah, we're going to do that. And then you start learning and say like, whoa, these strings actually hurt my fingers more because they're pretty fat. And I also need to tune this. And I need to understand the scales. And I have to be in perfect time, otherwise everybody else is going to be mad at me. Too much. So, I'm going to do the drums. I mean, the drums, they seem easy enough, right? I mean, you're just like smashing stuff. Some people, kind of like cross their arms like this, and have like a little bit of fun, should be super easy. Yeah, I'm going to be a drummer. And at that point, a lot of the people, were learning about Dunning-Kruger effect, just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to become a drummer, so easy, like the other one seems too hard. But did you know that you have to tune the cymbals? Did you know that you also have to tune the drums, like they actually have different ranges of frequency depending on the size of the drum. And you also have to make sure that the nomenclature of your set is going to be ergonomic enough. Otherwise, you're going to kind of like be twisting yourself in weird ways. That includes even the height of the seat. And of course, even the drumsticks, because the different thickness and how fat or how thin, those drumsticks are going to be, they're also going to be having an effect on the way that you play. And of course, everything else, that comes in your drum set, there's a reason why they're designed the way that they're designed. And we still haven't played the first note, right? Hopefully this was eye-opening, help you illustrate how the Dunning-Kruger effect can affect us all. So we made it to the end of the video, and thank you so much. As promised you, this is the real story behind the Dunning-Kruger effect. So credit to psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger. These are the two psychologists who published the paper in 1999 from Cornell University about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Of course, it has a real-life story. So this is the story. In 1995, man named Mr. Wheeler, he was a 5'6", 270-pound guy who decided to rob not one but 2 banks in the Pittsburgh area. So he went to Pittsburgh and he robbed a bank without a mask, just looking at the cameras, jumping from one teller to the other, just getting some money, going to the next one and whatnot. And he did that again, went to another bank, repeated the same sequence of events, and of course, he got caught. After he got apprehended, he gets, of course, confronted with the footage of him essentially robbing the bank. And Mr. Wheeler, he couldn't understand that this was happening. He's looking at it and saying, no, that can be, that cannot be me. And saying like, no, dude, that's you. You're jumping over there, looking, smiling at the camera, whatnot. He said like, no, it cannot be me. And then he uttered this weird phrase that has become kind of infamous, something along the lines, but I wore the juice. Wore the juice? What the hell does that mean? So whenever you were a kid, maybe you did this experiment where you use lemon juice and you write some letters and then you expose these to a source of heat and then the letters suddenly appear. So kind of like making invisible ink. He was familiar with that experiment. So in his mind, he thought that if he drenched himself in lemon juice, he would become invisible to the cameras. He was wrong. Of course, that this real-life event is pretty much on the nose, but it inspired the Dunning-Kruger folks to really understand a little bit more about why is it that some people who really don't understand much about something, they seem to be so confident about something that they really shouldn't be so confident about, and why is it that happened? And of course, they published the Dunning-Kruger effect in 1999. So bringing this full circle into the propagandistic narrative and why the Dunning-Kruger effect is so important for us to understand that. When people have marginal knowledge about something, it is very easy for them to ascertain that they actually know so much without doing the legwork. But two things that you can never buy, no matter how rich you are: talent and experience. And in order to build that talent, you actually need to have some certain reps. That means that you're probably going to make some mistakes, and that is going to give you an idea about what works and what doesn't work. And of course, people that think that they just know everything without going through the process, very likely are going to get it wrong. So I hope you found some value into today's topic. If you found some value in today's video, please hit a like and subscribe and ring the little bell so more people can hear this information, and hopefully that way we can defeat authoritarian propaganda together. I will be making more videos like this, but each time we're going to be exploring a different factor, and I call them factors because they're multipliers, about how propaganda is being utilized, different tactics and different strategies, and how you can identify them in order for us to defeat them. In the meantime, please share this with everybody that you know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.